Yeah, hi, I'm on this side and I was assigned the Stopwatch project in Coding Ninja's front-end skill assessment test. So this is how the site is looking like. Let me give you the demonstration of the site. So like this is a Stopwatch project. So it will have three basic buttons. One is to start the stopwatch, another one is to pause, and the third one is to reset the stopwatch. So let's see if we start these. If we tap on the start button, click on the start button, the stopwatch will get started. Okay, and if we want to pause it somewhere, we can pause it by clicking on the pause button, and if we want to reset it, it will get resetted if we click on reset button. And one thing also, if we start the stopwatch and pause it somewhere, and again if we start it, then it will get started from where it was stopped from. Okay, so this is how the site is looking like and the functionalities. And let me show you like how this site will look like on the smaller screens also. Okay, so this is how the site is looking on the smaller screens. So I have done the media queries also. Okay, let's go to the code, like the JavaScript, how the site is basically the functionalities are working. Okay, so the HTML is very like the basics, mainly it is of JavaScript. Okay, so what I have done now, I have got four variables. I have basically, one is to like four divs. One div is to like one div is of 4 hours, second div is for minutes, to store the minutes information in date in numbers. The third one is to store the seconds, and the fourth and last one is to store the millisecond, number of milliseconds. So I am like getting all those four divs by using get element by id from HTML. Okay, now I have gotten like I got the buttons also, the start button, the pause button, and the reset button also from the HTML. Okay, so that I can define the operations on those buttons. Okay, now after that I have initialized basically four variables. One is to store the number of hours information, another one is to store the number of minutes, the third one is to store the number of second, and the fourth and last one is to store the number of milliseconds information. So initially all are initialized to 0. Okay, now I have one variable called set interval id. So basically this will reference to the set interval that I'll call when I'll click on the start button. Okay, and the I have one variable also that is of is pause true. So basically it has the information whether the timer is currently paused or not. Okay, so let's get to the when what will happen when we click on the start button. So if we click on the start button, so I'll first check whether the timer is currently running or not. So if it is running, that means is paused is false, then I'll just simply return out of the function. We don't have to do nothing. Otherwise, I will update is paused to false and call this set interval function. And inside this function, I'm calling the timer function with 10 milliseconds of the interval. Okay, let's get to the timer function, like what this function is doing. Okay, so inside this function, as it is going to get called in every 10 milliseconds, so what I'm doing, I'm incrementing the milliseconds count by 10 in every iteration. Okay, and the thing is like if the milliseconds becomes at any point equals to 1000, then what I'll do, I'll update the milliseconds at 0, and now the seconds get incremented by 1. I'm doing the same thing with second also. So if at any points the seconds become equal to 60, so what I'm doing, I'm updating seconds to 0 and then incrementing the minutes by 1. Okay, so and I'm doing the same with the hours also. So if at any point minutes become equal to 60, then I'm updating minutes to 0 and incrementing the hours count by 1. And at the end, I'm calling this update screen function. So this update is, what does this update screen doing? Basically it is modifying all the datas. Why I have called these modified hours, modified minutes specifically? Basically if suppose the hours, minutes or seconds value is in single digits, so what it will do na, it will like attach a 0 before the data, so that it looks nice on the screen. So basically it was 9 earlier, the minutes, then on the screen it will look like 09. So that was these variables are doing. And at the end what I'm doing, basically I'm updating the new data to the screen. So that's why I'm using the dot inner HTML property to update or to portray the new data on the screen. And as I had selected the divs, so I'm updating the data in that divs. Okay, the hours, minutes, seconds, and milliseconds diffs. Okay. Now I talked about the start function, start button. Now let's quickly talk about the pause button also. So what I'm doing in pause button. So if the timer is currently paused, so we don't have to do nothing, just return. Otherwise each pause will be updated to true, and I'm just clearing the interval. Okay, so that's what I'm doing in case of pause. In case of reset button, what I'm doing, I'm reinitializing or updating the hours, those four variables to 0, and then clearing the interval, and then updating the is pause as true, and update and calling the update screen function, because as as I have updated these four variables to 0, so I have to call the update screen function as well, so that it can portray the new data on the screen. So that was all about the JS.